Hi everyone, it's Kay of Kay's Creative Home. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a very big bow for patriotic theme. And I'm playing around with my ribbon, all the ribbon I have that I think can be a part of this bow. I think I still have a few more that I left out because they have the tan background. But we'll do something with those later. And now I'm trying to put them in the order of how I want my bow to go. So I'm going to start with what's on your right. That's my left. So I've got that red, white, and blue plaid my hand is on. That's going to be the very first ribbon I add. And then I'm going to move on down the row here. And a few of them got cut off from this picture. But these are the ribbons I'm going to be using. And I'm excited to see how this turns out. So I have my own little way of making the giant bow because I'm working with a regular bow maker. So let me show you how I do that. Let's get this started and have some fun. By the way, this will be available as a kit in my Etsy shop if you like to try making this bow. All right, let's get started. All right, so I have my zip tie laying on my Easy Bow Maker by those little two center columns there. And I'm taking two chenille stems in both hands and twisting them together to make one, well, to make a really long one because this bow is going to be big. So you end up with two chenille stems on each side, and I do that just for extra support. So I'm starting with this blue and white striped ribbon, and my first tail is going to be 24 inches throughout this bow. I'll be having a 24-inch tail to start with, and then a 12-inch tail when I finish with each ribbon, but I'll show you that. So I've got my tail in there, and trying to get this chenille stem out the way, or pipe cleaner. And I'm going to start with 8-inch loops. So I had to kind of figure out, I can't even see my 8-inch mark there. So I said this ribbon's going to be in the way. In the end, I end up picking it up and taking it off, putting it to the side, trying to decide here how I'm going to do this. So yeah, I'm going to go start with 8-inch. I think the next time I'm going to try something even bigger. But anywho, once I mark the 8-inch, I gather right there in the center, double check it here, twist it on the other side opposite my loop so that the wrong side is facing up, and then when I come back to make my loop, the right side is now facing up. That's why we do that twist. And I've marked it at 8 inches, gave it a twist again. Well, I'm trying to, but the ribbon got a little snug there. So I gave it a twist again, and then I'm going to mark off my next loop of 8 inches, gather it there in the 8-inch point, and kind of move my loops around so they're not all in one place. And now I'm trying to decide again, but I will be making a 12-inch tail to cast off with, I'll call it that. All right, so measure out the 12 and give it a good snip. Okay, let's go to the next ribbon. Next, we've got this red, white, and blue plaid, and it's going to be the same steps for this one. 24-inch tail. Going to get that in there from the opposite way because my long tail was on the, what's this, your left the first time, and now the long tail will be on your right. That way I'll end up with all these, kind of like a lopsided tails, all these tails on one side. Even though we move things around at the end, it's kind of hard to get all of them situated to the other side when they started on one side. So I go back and forth. So I started my bow this time on the opposite side. I'm still doing 8-inch loops, and then as I'm doing them, I'm trying to lay them like in between the blue and white ribbons, in between the blue and white loops that are already down, and just move things around a little bit here. Makes it a little easier than waiting till the end. And now I'm going to do my last loop. Each time I'm going to do 3 loops. Gather it again. Place it in my bow maker. Measure out 12-inch tail here to end off with. Started with 24-inch, ending with a 12-inch. Give it a good snip. Alright, so we are almost ready for our next ribbon. So that little clamp I used to just hold my ribbon down so it won't start easing up. Alright, for this one again, we started with a 24-inch tail. Going to place that in the bow maker, give it a twist. And now I'm going to make my first loop. I'm still going to do 8 inches for this one. Measure that out real good there. Gather it up. Put it in my bow maker. Give it a twist. And then make my next loop. Gather it up in the center there. Put it in the bow maker. Then give it a good twist. Alright. And then make my third and final loop. Measure it out to that 8-inch mark. And then I'm going to gather it up again. Once I make sure everything is still nice and tight and snug like it should be. Alright, so now I'm ready to gather it up. Place it in the bow maker right where I've gathered it. And then measure off 12 inches for my next tail. Now when I finish this ribbon, I will be concluding what I call my first layer. The next one we're starting, our second layer. Now the loops will be 7.5 inches. So the tails will be the same. 24-inch tail, and each time I'm still going to start on the opposite side of the bow maker. So you can see how this time the long tail is to your right, and I'm starting the first loop on the left. So I'm going to do that at my 7.5 as best I can, because now I've got a lot of ribbon in here in the way. But what I try to also do is line my bow maker up for a certain number on my cutting board, so that green pad underneath. So say the center of my bow maker is lined up at 10, then I know how far to go out to the left and the right to still get the measurement I need, even if I can't see it on the bow maker. Alright, so same pattern, a 24-inch tail. Now we're doing a 7.5-inch loop, and then we're going to end with a 12-inch tail. We do 3 loops, end with a 12-inch tail. So I'm going to do that for this white ribbon, and then I'm adding one more, and then that will conclude my second layer. Now if you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone else, please. Anyone who's interested in learning how to make a bow. And remember, I take all questions in the comments area. Anything you want to know about making a bow, any difficulties you have, you can let me know and I'll do my best to help you with those. And if you a family member, I thank you for being a part of our family. And if not, don't forget to hit that button and the subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll be notified when new videos are released. Alright, I am finishing my second layer, and I'm just sorting through here, arranging the ribbons so that you don't end up with anything the same ribbon right next to each other, kind of spread it out here. Okay, so I've got this layer completed, and what I want to do now, because it's getting kind of thick, is finish this off. So what I do is take my zip tie and bring it around up through both sides there, and I'm going to close up my zip tie as soon as I can get it to fit around here. That's why I was saying it's getting kind of thick here. So yeah, I couldn't even find that zip tie. Get it around there good. So I finally got it into the little head of the zip tie and pulled on it. Got it zipped a little bit, just enough. I'm double checking my pipe cleaners, making sure they're within the zip tie. Now what I'm going to do is put my 2 fingers there on both sides of my bow, because your ribbon is stacked into like a little column. You want to keep it stacked like that. If it starts sliding everywhere, it's going to kind of mess up or distort the shape of your bow somewhat. Now I'm sliding my zip tie around to the back. still holding my finger in that little indentation and sliding my zip tie right into that little indentation too. And I've got my little rubber pliers, jewelry pliers, and I'm just grabbing that zip tie and pulling on it. I'm one of those people who, if I grab a zip tie like that, something plastic, it just slides right through my fingers. So I'm using that to pull it snug. It's still not super tight because I want to be able to move the ribbon around a little bit. Okay, so you can see how I've got it right in that indentation. Everything is held snugly. And at this point, I'm not going to shape it because I got to do something else. I got to finish my bow. We still got some more ribbon. And I'll show you why I'm shaping it later when we get it all together. So, here we go again. Let's start the next part of our bow. Because that, like I said, was getting too tall for the zip ties I have and even for my hands to be able to handle it. So now I'm going to take the next ribbon and just keep on building. Now I'm going to fast forward through this section because I'm doing the exact same steps again. I'm doing a 24-inch tail, and then I'm measuring out my loop. This time my loops have come in again, and now they're at 7 inches. And I'm making 3 loops, and then I'm ending off with a 12-inch tail. And again, I alternated the lengths of my tails simply because at the end I didn't want, the fluffiness of the tails to be bigger than the bow. And so, and I have to apologize that for this third round, I started off with an 18-inch tail and did my 3 loops and then had a 12-inch tail. So with this red and white and blue stripe ribbon I'm working with now, I am actually starting my 4th layer. Now I'm doing an 18-inch tail and a 6.5-inch loop and then a 12-inch tail. 18-inch tail, 3 loops at 6.5, and then a 12-inch tail to finish with. So each of my layers I did 3 ribbons, and that's how I did it, because that's about how much I can spread them out and each ribbon be seen. So that's how I do my layers in 3. Alright, we're going to finish this last ribbon and then we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, I've got all of these ribbons on here. I'm just kind of looking through, shaping it up a little teeny bit before I pull it off of the bow maker, trying to see if I got things kind of lined up like I want them so that everything can be seen and nothing is right next to itself again. That adds more color and more variety here. Alright, so now I'm grabbing that zip tie again, since these ribbons, oh, and that's something else I did, and this was just my preference. It doesn't have to be that way. I used all of my 2.5-inch ribbons first, so they'll be on the bottom of my bow, and then I ended with the 1.5-inch ribbons on top. Now I'm doing the same step again of sliding that zip tie around so that the head is in the back, and I've made sure it's right in the center of that indentation. I kept all my ribbon stacked so that it wouldn't be sliding to the side, and I'm holding it now right in that ridge where the bow maker was while I do my last, well, not my last, but do some more shaping here to make sure all the ribbon is kind of spaced where it needs to be before I give it a nice little snug tightening. And yeah, that's what you do for a little while. Make sure the better you get it here at this stage, the better your final bow will be. Because once it's super tight, it's harder to move those things around. So I've got that one shaped up, and now I'm taking the first 2 layers that I made as a separate bow, and again, see how I place my fingers right down that center again, kind of holding things in place as I move the loops around. That way I make sure I don't snug on a loop so hard that I kind of pull it out, or start pulling from the other side, because this is one continuous piece of ribbon. So if you pull too hard on one side, you're making the loop on the other side shorter. Alright, I got that one shaped up the way I want it, and I pulled it a little more snug. Okay, now what we're going to do, is take what I call my giant zip ties. They are 12 inches long, and I am now going to put both layers, or all of my layers, together. So I laid it on my tabletop. I placed the bigger bows, the bigger loops on the bottom, and now my smaller loops are going on the top, and the pipe cleaners are in the back now because that's what I'm going to use to attach this bow. I am closing up my giant zip tie, sliding it around to the back, staying still in the indentation of all of these loops. And once I got it around to the back, and I use my zip tie gun here to cut off the initial 2 zip ties. So what I had on that top layer and what I had on the bottom layer, I still have not cut that last zip tie. The reason I waited was because when you pull on these zip ties, like if I had done it already with the bottom one, it would be so tight that the top layer of ribbon I put on here would not have fit in as well. So it was better that I put them together and then pulled as tightly as I could. And see how nicely everything stayed stacked? So now I'm taking that final really long zip tie and pulling on it and got it as tight as possible and have clipped it. Okay, now it's time for a final shaping. And you can see, boy, now that it's tight, you've got some movement here still within, so much area. But now I can shape and open up my loops. And I'm showing you from the bottom of the bow since I'm doing those layers, that layer first, so that you can kind of see just how that works, how it looks when you're doing it. So I'm moving up now. Because this is so much different ribbon, I know which first three ribbons I started with. I kind of fluffed them out, and then I go up the next 3 ribbons I started with. I fluffed them out. I know which ones are in each layer, so I'm making sure that I'm fluffing them up layer by layer, and that way that kind of helps me to remember, how to kind of move things around, which ones are the same length, and kind of look better if I'm arranging them together, and not trying to pull something that's longer toward the front, that type of thing. So you can't see it, but right there in front of me on my table, I still have my ribbon stacked in 3s so that I can look straight ahead and say, okay, here are the next 3 ribbons I'm going to shape. And then I look ahead at my next layer and say, okay, here are the next 3 ribbons I'm going to shape. It helps me. I don't know about anybody else, but I guess because I just like doing things, my brain works better if it's organized. So I'm just going through here, shaping, getting this bow, all these loops spaced out, getting them fluffed and open as much as possible. And I didn't worry about putting anything in the center of the bow, because when you pull it nice and snug, it kind of pulls the ribbon together, and so you don't even see that zip tie in the end. You can see it there. So here's my bow. Isn't it big and beautiful? All right, now I got all these tails, and excuse all this stuff in the background because I know it makes it a little difficult to see. But the next thing I want to do is to clip all of these tails. So the shorter ones, I'm just doing a diagonal clip, and all of the 1.5 inch ribbon, I'm doing a diagonal clip. The shorter tails of the 2.5 inch ribbon, I'm doing a diagonal clip. And then for the 18 and 24 inch tails, I'm doing a dovetail clip. And I just got to work my way through all of them. It's going to be quite a few. We use 12 ribbons, so I've got 24 tails there. Okay, got that done. So what I'm doing is trying to find all of my 12-inch tails and giving them a little bit of a curl. Since they're going to be the shorter ones, I'm doing them first so they can be in the front. And I'm just using a tube that came out of my deco mesh. I'm curling my tails. I tend to like it that way because to me, that fluffiness makes the bow look like it's just still going all the way there at the bottom. So It's in layers, so I had to go through and find all of them and get them curled. And now I'm going to the longer ones. Still working with the ones in the front that are 18 inches, giving them a curl, but you can see not quite as much. They're hanging down a little bit lower. And then as I get to my 24-inch tails, and this thing I have them hanging on, the bow hanging on, the ribbon was getting lost in it and it kept going toward the back of it. But at any rate, finding my tails there, pulling them out, and now I'm doing my 24-inch tails. And you can see again, I'm trying to let them hang down even longer. Before I finish it, some of them are already kind of falling out. It's like curling your hair, and before you know it, the curls are falling out. But anyway, if I shape it real well with the wire and really take your time and make those curls, they should stay in a lot better. You can see in the back there, some of mine are falling out because I'm pulling on them too. Okay, I got this done. So I'm going to let you see this bow and put a piece of white styrofoam board behind it so that the background doesn't, everything doesn't blend together, so you can kind of see. And I'm going to share some pictures with you. So I really appreciate you spending this time with me. And I'll be talking with you again real soon.